ISO FileMaker Magazine, the professional's resource for FileMaker know-how.
Hey there, this is Matt Petrowski here to teach you more about FileMaker Pro. You have come to this video in order to learn about ScriptParameter. I'm going to teach you everything I can in order to successfully use it. All right, ScriptParameter is one of the most used functions in all of FileMaker. It's a bit innocuous, but it is extremely powerful. You need to know how to pass multiple things in, but let's start with just one. As you can see here on screen, I have a field with getScriptParameter. It is returning a result of nothing. ScriptParameter will not return anything until you give it something, and we're going to see how that works. In this database, just out of interest, you maybe have just gotten started with FileMaker. Well, I've got a text field named calculation. I am taking that calculation and evaluating the result. This may be one of the ways to start to explore FileMaker is to work with fields within a calculation, but there's a better way. Professional FileMaker developers are almost always going to be using the advanced tools under the tools menu within a thing called the data viewer. If you do not have the data viewer, here's how you turn it on. You go to your preferences, and in the first general tab, we are looking for this option, use advanced tools. It will require a restart, but we absolutely want to turn that on. This is FileMaker 19 and higher. If you're on Windows, you'll find that at the bottom of the edit menu. Now, getScriptParameter is something that the script that you create receives from the user interface. Now, when I go up to the scripts menu and I access my scripting workspace, I'm going to have a script from a previous video, which I'll go ahead and get rid of so we can start with a blank slate. Here I'm going to have a script. And this script is going to do something. In fact, I'm going to call it do something. And it can do anything in the world of FileMaker. In fact, the easiest way to understand FileMaker is that when you're in FileMaker, anything that you see in any of FileMaker's menus is essentially a script step. FileMaker is a massive automation platform. And in conjunction with your data, your user interface, and what you want the script to do, it's limitless. It's actually very wonderful and empowering. But we need to know, how do we get something from the user interface into our script? That comes via getScriptParameter. So here we're going to do something. We're going to put a variable. We're going to start to type set, and we're going to type set variable. Now, a variable is just it's an imaginary empty thing. It's not empty, but it's memory. Whatever comes in can be anything, and it's going to be in the form of our script parameter. So a variable can be named whatever you want, but let's call it something super simple. Let's call it parameter, because that's what's going to be coming in. Our value for this is going to be getScriptParameter. Now, I typed that in directly, but I usually prefer to click on the specify because FileMaker will automatically complete that. If I type in get and then start to type in either script, SC, which will filter down to the SC, or simply type the latter part of the function, parameter, I can typically get to it a little bit quicker. For example, if I type, instead of get system, if I was to type platform, it gets me to platform really quickly, but we're looking at parameter. So I type in parameter, getScriptParameter. Now we know that this is returning nothing. We saw it at the very beginning of this video. So how do we get it to get something? The easiest way in this script is to use a show dialog. So right after this step, I am going to type in dialog. And that's going to actually DIAL gives me dial phone. I don't want that, but I arrow down and I get show custom dialog. Show custom dialog is one of the best ways to see whatever's happening in your script unless you're using the debugger. Go ahead and look on YouTube for another video that I have about using the debugger, super helpful, or the introduction, getting to know FileMaker. So here what we're going to say is something really cute. Your parameter is ... And then what we're going to show here is our variable. So I could have done this. I could have easily clicked on the specify, and because this is FileMaker's calculation engine, I could have put right here, get script parameter. I could have typed in parameter, and that would show my exact results. I mean, I'm doing it right here. We can see that all I'm doing is I'm putting the result of script parameter into something named parameter when I could have put directly in the dialog, get script parameter. But here's the trick. In all of scripting, many times you're using the same thing over and over again. So it's a little bit easier for me to abstract this, that's what it's called, abstraction, by putting this in and then simply just referencing parameter. This is the most common way to program things in FileMaker when it comes to parameters. So I've got a dialog. That dialog is going to say your parameter is, and then it's going to display whatever it captured into that variable. Now I have two buttons, OK and cancel. In this case, cancel doesn't make sense. I'll delete that and I'll say OK. And we will save the script. I did that with Command or Control S. You saw that the little asterisk, which was right here, we'll add something by putting in a comment right here. There's the asterisk. This means it's unmodified. As soon as I hit Command or Control S, the asterisk goes away. So we need to pass something into the script. In FileMaker's UI, this always comes in the form of, or not always, but most often comes in the form of a button. That is either a regular button, which I have right there, the tooltip showing, or a button bar. We'll use a button because it's really simple right here. I will drag this out. Button setup will come up. I will call this button. I am going to perform a script. So I'm not running a single step. I am going to say, when a user clicks this button, you are going to run a script. You are going to do something. This is the location where get script parameter receives something. You can pass whatever you want to that script. And here's an important concept. It can be a single thing or it can be multiple things. And as you develop more and more in FileMaker, you typically want to pass multiple things, or you end up wanting to pass multiple things. But let's just pass one thing. In this context, by clicking specify, again, we're in FileMaker's calculation dialog box, and we can type in hello world, the most common thing to do in all of programming. Now, we know what our script is going to do. Our script, when we click this, is going to capture and display that result. So we click on our button, our dialog comes up, our title is exactly like we said, your parameter is ... and there it is right there, hello world. Now notice that as I click and it goes away, we still have a result down here, get script parameter, and it's showing a result of nothing. The only time that that exists, this variable, is while the script is running. So there's really only one way that you can see the contents of get script parameter while you're running a script, and this is an important tip. Under the Tools menu, there is this option of the Script Debugger. The Script Debugger lets you see the contents of get script parameter before the script is actually run. So let's open up our debugger, which it's right there. There's also another way that we could do this. We could click on this little bug icon, but remember, it's the button that has the parameter that's passing it from the user interface into the script. So if we click this right now instead of the button, we are not getting the contents of the parameter that's on the button. So it's very important that we want to turn on the debugger in order to see the results before we click the button, and then we can see the contents of the parameter. So with the debugger invoked, I click on the button, and we can see right here that the button, which is unnamed, meaning it's an unnamed object. You can look for other videos here on YouTube about named objects, but perform script wants to do something. Well, in this case, I can see down here at the bottom what the call stack is. Well, a button in the file get functions is calling this particular script step. I'm going to click on this option right here of the step into. Now, at the bottom, what I'm going to do is I have immediate access in order to see the inbound parameter, and it is right here. I can also use the data viewer. I can see that the button called a script. That script is do something, and here in brackets is the inbound parameter of hello world. I can also see in the data viewer when I click on this little icon right there, which will bring up the data viewer, or I could have gone up to the tools and selected the data viewer. There's always multiple ways to do this. I can see that getScriptParameter is passing hello world. So those are the two ways that you can see the value coming in, here within the call stack within the debugger, or right there in a watch variable. I can also see it within the parameter. Let's take a look at that, at what happens. Remember, with the debugger active, I am in slow motion right now, and I have the play button, which could play through the whole script, or I can simply step through each step. Well, the first step in this case is set variable. It's going to set the parameter to the contents of getScriptParameter. Let's step, and we move from 1 to 2, but when we take a look at the variable, our watch variable is showing us what does getScriptParameter return. Well, it returns what we gave it, which was hello world, but we can also switch to the current, and we can see that parameter captured the contents of hello world. So those are the three ways that you can see what getScriptParameter returns, or what the value is. The first is there in the call stack in the debugger. The second is using a watch variable with the getScriptParameter function. And then the third is if you have captured it into a variable within your script. So what's the next step of getScriptParameter? It is very much passing multiple values, and let's take a look at that. Okay, let's continue on. So this is going to be a super short lesson. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about this, but there's many different ways that you can pass multiple things, not just one, but many things into a script. And there will be many times that you want to do this. Heading back into layout mode, double-clicking my button, and then going and looking at where the script parameter comes from, right here. And this shows up in script triggers. It shows up in your startup and your shutdown scripts with the file options, many different places. Look up other videos here on YouTube, and you will find out how to do that. When I click this, because we have access to FileMaker's calculation engine, we can pass multiple things into this script in multiple ways. Today's current programming environment, the best by far and easiest is using FileMaker's JSON functions, and it looks in the form of JSON set element. Now, I'm not going to go in depth into this particular function, but this particular function allows you to set up multiple pieces of information. I'm going to type a shortcut right now. FM JSON. Now, this is only on my computer. You won't find this in all of FileMaker. You can't type what I just typed, which was FM JSON. It's a shortcut application I use, which triggers out a custom expansion. But if I get rid of all of this confusing stuff, this is the best way to pass multiple parameters. I would be able to have exactly what it says right here of, and we'll zoom in a little bit more. Here's parameter 1. Parameter 1 is going to be this value. Parameter 2 could be, let's say, for example, the contents of a field right there. So I'm passing the contents of these fields as a second parameter. And once I get into the script, I would say, what is parameter 1? Give me that, and put that into a variable, just like we did with the word parameter. What is the value of 2? And do that. Now, without confusing you with JSON, let's go back to our original result of hello world and take a look at how a simpler way to pass multiple values. Well, FileMaker has a function called list, and the list function simply just says, each value that is on its own line, well, you can actually be on an independent line. So let's take our hello world and put that on one line, but then we would have another value on a different line. So we'll just put in another value. And again, this could be a field. This could be whatever you want it to be coming into your script. But in this case, I've got hello world as a first value and another value as a second value. How do we separate them out in the script? Well, that's super simple. We are going to go over to our script. And remember, in this particular case, getScriptParameter is taking that whole chunk of text. That whole chunk of text means that it's ultimately the value. Let's see what it looks like. Let's just go into browse mode and let's just run it. We can see that we're getting hello world as the first value and another value as the second. Well, all we have to do to break these out is just use one simple function. And we're going to do that in our script by having two different dialogues. I'm going to show dialog right here. And here I'm going to have parameter 1, and then I'm going to have parameter 2. So I'm going to duplicate this step, and I'm going to say I'm going to have parameter 1 and parameter 2. But I need to make one little adjustment here. Rather than grabbing the whole contents of the script parameter, I need to break out all of the individual pieces. This is where learning those JSON functions is really helpful. Go learn them. It's the best way to pass things within FileMaker when you have multiple things, but this simple one will work as well. With the getScriptParameter, what we're going to do is we are going to cut that and we are going to say getValue. This one function simply looks at a return delimited list of values and say what's number 1, what's number 2, what's number 3, and so forth. And I've been doing this for years and it works absolutely fine, provided you know that you always have something in slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. With the list function, if something is empty in any given slot, if I had an empty value in slot 2, in other words, a double set of quotes with nothing in it, the list function collapses things and shrinks them down, meaning 3 would become 2, and that's where things break and where JSON is a little bit better. It handles empty parameters, which sometimes you do have in more advanced programming. But here with getValue, what is my list of values? Well, my list of values is my script parameter. Well, in this case, I'm on value 2. I'm going to simply copy all of that. And we will be able to read the code really simply right here when I update this, and we can read what's going on. So in this particular case, what I have is I've got some script parameters coming in. I'm referencing the function 2 different times, but because of the getValue, I'm stripping only the first one off for the first parameter and the second one off for the second parameter. And here I can say and update this, your second parameter is, and this is parameter 2 right there. So that's all I need to do for my changes. And we'll do one final thing, but here clicking the button, we can say your parameter is hello world. Click OK. My next dialog shows your second parameter is another value. And this is how you deal with multiple parameters in a very simple way. Now, what would have been a little bit easier way to do this, or a, let's say, a more clear way? It's all a matter of what you want to do. If I don't want to reference or see getScriptParameter multiple times, what I could have done is this instead. I could have done, we're going to simply set what I originally had when we first started this lesson or this video, and I am going to simply change the way that my code reads. I am going to call this dialog 1, and I am going to specify on this calculation get value of the parameter. Now there's an advantage to this, and that is the flexibility of the programming. So it makes the code a little bit easier to read right there. So if you look at this now, what I have is I have a parameter, it's on a button, or it's on a script trigger, or it's on one of the startup or shutdown on the file options. I'm passing that parameter into the script. The script is receiving the whole of the parameter, regardless of whether it's one or multiple. If it's multiple, then I need to break it out, and I can break it out using the JSON functions. That's better. Or I can break it out using this simple format right here. I simply need to change this right here. I can see that that's wrong. You probably saw that as well. Get parameter 1. I read my code. My script parameter came in. It has multiple lines. For the first line, I want to get the value of line 1 off of the parameter. For my second line, I want to get value 2 off of the parameter. All I have to do here is see that these match. Parameter 1 or parameter nothing and parameter 2 don't match. I renamed them to dialog. What do we need to do? We're just going to call this one dialog 1 so that this matches this, and click OK, which was off screen. And this one is going to be dialog 2, of course. And now I'm going to get the exact same results, but my script is a lot easier to read because rather than saying parameter 1 equals get script parameter, parameter 2 equals get script parameter, I'm really not confusing myself. I'm saying I've got a parameter coming in. There's one parameter coming in, but that one parameter has multiple parts. And then I'm going to bring those parts up, and it makes your script easier to read, and we get the same result. We click the button. Your parameter is hello world. Your second parameter is another value. And this is how we use get script parameter. If you're looking for more information about learning more about FileMaker, those valuable JSON functions, go ahead and look it up here on YouTube, or you can always find more information at FileMakerMagazine.com. I'd like to wish you much luck with your own development, and until next time, happy FileMaking.
We hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial, and we'd like to say thank you for your subscription and your support. If you're not already a subscriber, head on over to www.FileMakerMagazine.com/subscribe for more information about the benefits of joining.